AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
Hey, Will.
Hey, bud.
Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You so. And Mr. Toby Tom Play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. NFL draft in the rearview mirror, and historic low for LSU baseball. David DeLucci here in hour 3. A ton to do. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
NFL draft is in the rearview mirror. The Saints make 8 selections. Little bit of a caveat because there was a trade in there, but figured what we would do is start the show today by giving you a little roundup of the entire Saints draft class. So let's hit the high points if you would. It started on Thursday like this.
With the 8th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State.
Talked about it on Thursday, but if Jordan Tyson's healthy, he's an absolute game breaker. He's had the knee, the collarbone, the hamstring issues. If he's healthy, you drafted your version of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, JSN, the legit number 1 game-breaking receiver, the most talented receiver in this draft class. The caveat is if he's healthy. So go stay healthy and go dominate. After day 1, the Saints rolled into Friday with a couple of picks, and they took a couple of Bulldogs, starting with a big defensive lineman.
With the 42nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Christen Miller, D-tackle, Georgia.
6'4", 321 pounds. Christen Miller, a name that should be familiar to SEC football fans. I love the player. I'm a little curious about the spot. They needed cornerback help. They needed edge rusher help. They didn't necessarily need interior defensive linemen. You have Devon Gottschall. You have Nathan Shepard. You have Brian Brzee. You've got Vernon Broughton. And now you add Miller to that group. Somebody's going to be the odd man out. Yes, Gottschall and Shepard are entering the last years of their deal. Here was Kellen Moore on the process that led the Saints to Miller.
Drafting Christen in the second round, 4-year player at Georgia, 2-year starter. As we went through this process, we had a formal interview with him at the Combine. Peter Sermon actually worked him out at Georgia. But great player, love his energy, love his juice. I think you guys already sensed that in kind of his media obligations so far. His versatility and his play style is going to be really good for us.
Love the player, love the versatility, love the play style. A little curious, but the position and the spot in the draft, but a good one for that Saints defensive line, but they weren't done with Bulldogs.
With the 73rd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Oscar Delp, tight end, Georgia.
Kellen Moore talking about Miller's versatility, same thing he liked about Delp.
The way they played him. Obviously, he played a little bit more of like an off-the-ball tight end in a wing alignment a lot of times. He'll be able to play potentially in the backfield on the line of scrimmage and off the ball. And so, I think what we're getting is a really smart player. I think he'll be able to handle some volume, and I think he'll allow us to play the chess piece game when you have Juwan and you have Noah and you have these other tight ends that you want to kind of put in certain positions. He'll be able to kind of counteract with those guys.
84% of Delp's snaps this season were as an inline tight end. He's obviously the guy that's going to replace Foster Moreau. Just 70 catches over 4 seasons. He can catch, but was not really utilized in that way at Georgia. You heard Kellen say it. He'll battle Noah Fant, former 2019 first-round draft pick. Good depth there. Another big-body dude with a lot of experience at the major college level. He is a plug-and-play, ready-made contributor on the offensive side. Turn the page to Saturday, and the Saints stuck on the offensive side. It was Jeremiah Wright, and that's actually the only announcement we don't have, the offensive lineman from Auburn. One of the things I like about Jeremiah Wright, 25 years old in September. So you're talking about another guy who's a young veteran with a lot of playing experience, a former defensive tackle who switched to the offensive line in 2022, started the last 2 years at right guard at Auburn, also played in the Senior Bowl, something that the New Orleans Saints like a lot. This potentially could be maybe the heir apparent to Cesar Ruiz at right guard, but for now, a good depth piece on the interior, especially with Will Clapp's retirement. So the Saints start day 3 with offense, and they continue day 3 with offense.
With the 136th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Ryan Slants, wide receiver from North Dakota State University.
If the name sounds familiar by now, you probably know it should. That is Trey Lance's younger brother, Bryce Lance, who's 6'3" and had back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons at North Dakota State. What I love about what the Saints did here is exactly what Kellen Moore had said previously. They wanted different body types and different styles. A year ago, you had a bunch of dudes that were 5'10", 180 pounds. Well, now you got Brandon Cooks, now you got Chris Olave, they list him at 6 foot, but let's get real. If Chris Olave's 6 foot, I got a full head of hair. But now you've got 6'2" Jordan Tyson and 6'5" Devon Vele and 6'3" Bryce Lance. You've added a whole bunch of dudes with different styles. Loomis talked about Bryce Lance after the draft.
We're adding talent to the room. We're adding a developmental 6'3", 4'4" player that played it. He didn't play at a Power 4 conference. He played for North Dakota State, and so there's probably some development that we need to do there.
How quickly can that development happen? We'll see, but Bryce Lance, a 4th-round pick, should be a virtual shoo-in to make this team 6'3" and can fly. Finally, the Saints went back to the defensive side in round 5.
With the 177th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Lorenzo Styles Jr., defensive back, Ohio State.
So again, familiar name. Sonny Styles was a top 10 pick. This is his older brother, Lorenzo Styles. And the book on Lorenzo Styles is he ran a 4.27 in the 40. Can absolute fly. Began his career as a receiver at Notre Dame, transferred to Ohio State where he played nickel cornerback. The Saints drafted him as a safety, but this would stand to reason that he's maybe a guy you're eyeing to replace Alontae Taylor.
Brandon refers to these guys as DBs more than corners, nickels, or safeties, and so I'm going to take that tact and just say, hey, look, we added some DBs, some of which are a little more developmental, and we've got to wait till we get into training camp to see how they fit with the defense that Brandon wants to play.
Expect to see Styles in the slot. Speaking of speed, with the 6th-round pick, Saints selected a familiar name.
With the 190th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Barion Brown, kick returner, LSU.
Good try on the first name. It's Barion Brown, but we all know that. And again, the Saints went speed. A guy who set the SEC record with 6 kickoff return touchdowns. This is pretty easy, right? You traded Rashid Shaheed a year ago, And so you had a bunch of dudes that split return duties. Mason Tipton, Devin Neal, Kendre Miller, Dante Pettis. Well, guess what? You just solved that problem with a guy who has 6 kickoff return touchdowns in his career in the Southeastern Conference, and that speed is something that was attractive for the Saints.
We went up to the pro day. We had him here for our local pro day. Really enjoyed our visits with him, and he was enthusiastic when we called him. It was fun to feel that excitement from him. And yeah, I just remember his comment. We were talking to him about his speed, and one of the comments he made was he never lost a race. And I thought, well, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. And it's also worth noting the 3 wide receivers picked are the most in one draft for the Saints since 1989. They definitely wanted to get Tyler Shuck weapons. They did it, but they wrapped up their 8th pick in the draft on the defensive side of the ball.
With the 219th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select T.J. Hall, defensive back, Iowa.
7th round pick, another Senior Bowl participant. If the Saints drafted a lot of speed on offense and actually on defense with Styles, this is the opposite of that. He was the slowest corner at the combine, a 4.59 in the 40, played in 42 games with 18 starts. How he might fit will be interesting, but there's reasons the Saints liked him.
All of a sudden, man, here's a player that we were considering at the bottom of the 5th round and the 6th round, and man, he's still there. So it was kind of like a no-brain pick for us. You know, played at Iowa, played at a high level. That's a really good program. He's well coached, and it's a guy we can throw at a couple positions because we think he's a pretty versatile athlete, and we might have a swing at 3 different spots for him.
I wish the Saints had gotten a cornerback earlier in the draft. They didn't address defensive end in the draft, but did so with a trade to acquire Tyree Wilson. And you got Tyler Shuck a buttload of weapons, which it's hard to argue against that because I and many of you have been screaming about this for years. 3 receivers, a tight end, an interior offensive lineman. It's time to get rolling for the New Orleans Saints and to see if Tyler Shuck is really ready to hit the kaboom with this thing offensively in 2026. All right, quick Saints draft roundup. We're going to dive deeper into all this as we move throughout. I do have a lot of thoughts on the trade for Tyree Wilson I want to get to. We'll talk about the Saints UDFAs a bit later in the show, all the LSU guys. Our show Up and Everyday is brought to you by Bud Light, so drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your New Orleans Saints. So you want to raise a cold one, toast the Who Dat Nation after a successful draft, make sure it's the official beer of the Saints, Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light. All right, it's after further review. Let me knock out a quick break. We did mention that the Saints selected not 1 but 2 Georgia Bulldogs. Jordan Hill from 24/7, who covers Georgia, is going to join us next to peel back some more layers of the onion on both Christen Miller and Oscar Delp. That's next on AFR.
AFR.
Lowest prices, never any contracts. Lowest prices, never any contracts. When we talk about Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, I want you to remember that. Lowest prices, never any contracts. If you're already on HRT, remember you're overpaying if you're not at Goodwood. That's number 1. And if you are locked into a contract or paying some membership fee at your HRT clinic, you're overpaying. And if you pay for your 6-month blood labs, you're overpaying because Goodwood picks up that cost as well. Lowest prices, never any contracts, awesome people. It's Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Yes, they do ED treatments, but they do so much more. HRT, like I've told you about, and dozens of different options if you are interested in learning more about peptides and how to optimize your health, your vitality, your mental clarity, lower anxiety, sleep better, so many different ways that you can improve your overall wellness. It's Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. YourGoodwood.com, YourGoodwood.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
We had a formal interview with Oscar at the Combine. He kind of shared, I think, a little bit of that. Josh Hill went and worked him out. Felt really comfortable with that through this whole process. He's a multi-spot guy. He's played a lot of different positions in his career there. He's played with some other tight ends, so he knows how to kind of play that, multi-tight end type role. And, that was a great opportunity for us. Obviously, for him to still be available in the third round was a nice luxury for us. And so,
Kellen Moore, Tigers. Oof, programmed into my brain. That's Kellen Moore. Saints selected 2 Georgia Bulldogs on day 2 of the draft. A guy who certainly knows those 2 players well is a guy who covers the Georgia Bulldogs every single day. Jordan Hill, good enough to join us here on AFR. Talk a little bit about Christen Miller and Oscar Delp. Hey, Jordan, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for the time. How are you? I don't hear. Okay. All right, no worries. Just see if we can get him hooked up. It's all good. Jordan's with Dogs 24/7, so covers the covers the Bulldogs every day. Hey, Jordan, let's try that again. How are you?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing awesome, man. We appreciate the time. Hey, let's go chronologically. Let's start with Christen Miller, and then we'll get to Delp. Miller as a second-round pick. What are your thoughts?
I really like it for the Saints. I thought he was a guy that could have snuck into the end of the first round. I thought maybe the Houston Texans might look at him. I think they had about the 28th pick. But, to see him go off, he was the second Georgia player drafted behind Monroe Freeling. And he's a guy that, you look at his stats at Georgia, they didn't really pop off the page. But I think that had more to do with what Georgia asked him to do on that defensive line and really freeing up opportunities for the inside linebackers behind him. So every draft over at Dogs 24/7, we do a superlative story at the end of it, and we, hand out best value or, who's going to make an immediate impact. And the 3 of us over at Dogs 24/7 all picked Christen Miller as the future star among the 8 Georgia players who were drafted. So I think really highly of him. I'm someone who's a Falcons fan, so kind of torn to see him land in New Orleans, but I think it's a great pick for the Saints, and I think he's going to fit in quite well in that defensive front.
Well, look, as Saints fans, we're watching Harold Perkins go to the Falcons, so it's not like people here are pumped about that. Right? I mean, we've seen a lot of that over the years with the crossover with these 2 organizations. But hey, so you mentioned that the stats didn't pop based on what Georgia asked him to do. Can you dig a little deeper on what Georgia asked him to do in that defense?
Yeah, I mean, he played a lot of 2 technique, some 0 technique there on the interior defensive line and kind of freeing up space, for the inside linebackers. If you go look the past couple of years, and then really this is the entire time Kirby Smart has been the head coach, it's the inside linebackers who rack up tackles, who have the majority of tackles for loss. But you just watch individual plays from Christen Miller. One, very stout against the run. He deserves a lot of credit for how this defense took a step forward against the run last year. I believe they were in the top 10 by the end of the year. The year before that, they had been 30th against the run, and that was very much not what we've gotten used to seeing, especially the most dominant Georgia defenses. So he deserves a lot of credit there. And 2, sometimes with interior defensive linemen, you think more, all right, they're going to stop the run. I think Christian's a pretty capable pass rusher, especially for an interior guy. So he's got a good motor. I think that he's going to do really well there. And, hope you guys get a chance to hear from him, talk to him quite a bit. He's a fun guy to talk to. And you never have to wonder what Christen Miller's thinking. He's usually going to let you know.
He made immediate waves in his post-draft Zoom with the local media. So I think we're already getting a little sense of that with Christen Miller. If there is a concern with Miller, what is it?
I guess the biggest thing is just going to be, how he adapts to a new level of football. I mean, as good as playing in the SEC is, he's going to be going against some outstanding offensive linemen. And he's going to have to prove himself. And I think that you look at what the NFC South as a whole did, and I really think all the teams in the division did a really good job of bulking up and making their teams better for 26. So, it won't be too long before he's playing the Carolina Panthers, and, they've got an offensive line that they went and got Monroe Freeling from Georgia to help make it better. So, and just even the questions that come with any rookie, he's starting his professional career. Does he handle things the right way? Is he mature about what he does? Everything I know about Christian, I think he will be, but, that's an unknown, and he's got to go prove that. in New Orleans. That's a very difficult, challenging thing to be up against. So I think Christen will do a good job with that.
At Jordan Davis Hill, if you want to give him a follow, Dogs 24/7, talking about the two Bulldogs at LSU draft. There, go get that. The Saints draft. I got Georgia, LSU, Saints, Falcons just crossing wires left and right here. That the Saints drafted. The other is Oscar Delp, who they went after in round 3. Just a giant tight end, maybe not totally utilized in the passing game. What was Delp's role primarily in that Georgia offense?
He was mostly a run blocker. He was a pass catcher at times, and I'm somebody with Christen, we were just talking about, hey, the statistics don't jump off the page. I would say that and really double and triple down with Oscar Delp. I think he's going to be someone who is considerably more productive in the NFL than he was in college. He did a great job as a blocker, but I do think he's more capable as a pass catcher than we saw at Georgia. Now, why we didn't see more of that, it's kind of hard to say. Was the offense really geared more toward receivers like Zachariah Branch and then just took opportunities away from Oscar Delp? Was Gunnar Stockton just a little bit more hesitant? So many of those tight end routes are going to be across the middle of the field, and Gunnar didn't really throw to the middle of the field a ton last year. So I think there's a few different reasons why the numbers are what they are. And again, he's not going to be a Brock Bowers who comes into the league and is all of a sudden in the mix for Rookie of the Year. But I think he can be a threat in this passing game, and I think that again, I'm sure he was drafted in large part because of what he showed as a blocker. But I think he is a more capable pass catcher than we saw at Georgia.
Was it just, and it's interesting because he had 70 catches over the 4 years in Athens, and you mentioned Brock Bowers. Obviously, they were really good pass catching tight ends there. Is he a capable pass catcher if they call on him in that role?
I think so. And what really excites me for Oscar, I made this comparison looking at the Georgia players that were drafted, where Oscar falls in New Orleans and where Zachariah Branch falls with the Falcons, that they can get involved in the passing game, and it's not like they got to come in and right away play a huge role. I mean, you look at Oscar, even at tight end, having Juwan Johnson, but also Chris Olave, they go get Jordan Tyson. I think that sets up well where he can get in, get acclimated, and then play a role, much like with Zachariah Branch for the Falcons. With him joining and Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. So I think he is capable. Again, I don't know that we're going to come out of this season and say, oh, my God, he was the second leading receiver for the Saints. But I do think he can be used in that passing game. And think about Tyler Shuck. I think that's huge to have a young tight end. Hopefully they can kind of build that rapport this offseason, and he can become a threat in this offense.
Juwan Johnson is the primary pass-catching tight end for New Orleans, but Delp is certainly someone they like an awful lot. Any other Georgia Bulldogs that you want to send down this way? I'd rather them come here than go up to Philly.
Right. They decided to mix it up. There was a nice run there where they were just NFC South, just dominating, taking a bunch of Georgia players. C.J. Allen was kind of the early exception, but I think it's a pretty good strategy. I think if you're any NFL team, and I was a little surprised that there were 8 Georgia players drafted. There were a few other guys that I thought were 6th, 7th round guys. If I'm a general manager taking my last or second to last pick, hey, pick a guy from Georgia, pick a guy from Ohio State, pick a guy from Alabama. At the very least, they're going to practice hard, and, hey, maybe you find a gem at the end of the draft.
Hey, before you go, and Jordan Hill's with us, Dogs 24/7, you talked a little bit about Miller and the personality. What about both Miller and Delp as locker room guys?
I think they'll both be great. Delp, I would definitely characterize as a leader. I think he was a guy, and he deserves a lot of credit going into his senior year. So this past year, he was very candid during the spring. It was like, hey, I'm not happy with how my junior year went. I kind of got caught looking ahead to potentially going to the draft. He winds up coming back for a senior year. He's a guy that owns when the team has shortcomings, and the guy that I think the rest of the team looks to and understands that he's going to kind of hold that standard and that everybody else is going to pay attention to that. I know Todd Hartley, the tight ends coach of Georgia, I know going into his senior year talked about that he had practically never missed a practice. And Christian's a guy that I think he takes his work seriously, but he's going to be a guy that I think a lot of people gravitate to. It's going to have a lot of fun. I know he was on TikTok, I think, the day after he was drafted saying, hey, New Orleans better watch out, basically. He's going to have a good time, but he's a hard worker, and I think he'll be a fan favorite once he starts making plays, but also put a microphone in front of him. You're going to have something. You're going to come away with something good. I'll tell you that.
Jordan Hill, our guest from Dogs 24/7 at Jordan Davis Hill, if you want to give him a follow. We appreciate it, man. Thanks for the insight.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Yep, it's our pleasure. We're brought to you by Supper Club, supperclubbtr.com. Maybe you need to get Christen Miller over to Supper Club. Supperclubbtr.com for your reservations. So I've been telling you for about a week now that Chef Layton got that authentic Japanese Kobe beef in at Supper Club. Well, it's about half gone. I told you it was going to last about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Fully expect by the end of this week it's going to be gone. So if you're interested, if you've never had authentic Kobe beef, or if you have and you can't believe that there's a place in Baton Rouge that has it, get by Supper Club. They're closed today. Remember, they're closed Sunday, Monday, open Tuesday to Saturday. So get on by Tuesday or any day this week. But I'm telling you, it'll be gone by the end of this week. So if you're interested in trying something different, something that's not on the menu, it's not going to be an everyday menu item because they get it when they can get it. It's, I think, twice that they've actually gotten authentic Japanese Kobe beef since they've been open at Supper Club. So they got it now. It'll be gone by the end of this week. So get on by supperclubbtr.com for your reservation, or just walk in Tuesday through Saturday, always open seating at the bar, supperclubbtr.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Monday shows are presented by Relief Windows. Good perspective there from Jordan Hill on the two Georgia Bulldogs that the New Orleans Saints selected. And it's not a bad strategy. You go with guys that are proven at the power level. And the other thing that I love that you're starting to see very much as a trend in drafts now are older players, because guys, because of NIL, are staying in college longer. Both Delp and Miller are both 4-year guys. So Delp's already 22. Miller will be 22 in August. So you're talking about guys that are just older, more veteran, more mature guys with more college snaps under their belt. See if it pays dividends. All right, it's After Further Review. Let me knock out a quick break, come back, go around the SEC, and a story that is shaking the college football landscape today. And boy, does it look like LSU dodged a bullet. We'll get to that next here on AFR.
AFR.
91 degrees today. 91 degrees. Your AC is already getting a workout, and it's only April. Call River City's 1 Hour Air. 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001 for the preseason AC tune-up. Y'all, I just can't implore you to do this enough. Mention the show. They're going to save you $30 on that special. Join their membership club, and the seasonal maintenance is free. They're going to come by, check out your unit, make sure it's clean, running efficiently for the coming warm weather. And if you do have an issue, they can catch it early so a little issue doesn't become a very big, very costly issue. And also, the seasonal maintenance extends the life of your unit, putting off longer a very costly replacement. Got to do this every year, y'all. Big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. It's River City's 1 Hour Air, 752-0001.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Well, a story that here on this Monday afternoon is sort of rocking the college football world is what's going on with Brendan Sorsby. If you haven't seen it yet, the Texas Tech transfer quarterback, of course, was at Cincinnati a year ago, transferred into Texas Tech. He and Sam Levitt were 1A, 1B, the top two quarterbacks in this year's portal cycle. Sorsby is checking into a residential treatment program for gambling addiction. That according, well, actually, Texas Tech has made this announcement. Pete Thamel, NACOS, they were among the first to report this. The school is confirming it now. They've announced it. Sorsby's decision to seek treatment, this is in the wake of a discovery that Sorsby's made thousands of online bets on a variety of sports being a gambling app. Now, that very much jeopardizes his eligibility. The NCAA is investigating Sorsby's gambling as they prohibit athletes from betting on college and pro sports. According to sources in Thamel's report, Sorsby bet on Indiana football while he was redshirting for the Hoosiers as a freshman in 2022. He played a single game that season as a reserve, but he was betting on his team back in 2022. Apparently, the bets were on Indiana to win, and none of them came in a game in which he appeared. So the idea of maybe, tanking is not there, or throwing a game is not there, but still, it's against the NCAA rules. So no timetable on Sorsby's treatment. We'll keep you up to date with this, how it all plays out. But, Sorsby is a guy that we know had a mid-seven-figure contract to go to Texas Tech. And the offer LSU had for him is one that was made public. Ross Dellinger reported. So you're talking about a guy that had a major offer to go to a college football playoff team, and that is very much up in the air right now. And it's interesting because we had Joey McGuire, the Texas Tech head coach, on AFR when we did our show in Houston at the Bryant Awards banquet, when they were kind enough to invite us there to do the show. And so we had Coach McGuire on. And remember, this was at a time when Sorsby had signed with Texas Tech. And, of course, LSU landed Sam Leavitt. But LSU was very much in the mix for Sorsby. Remember, he took a visit to LSU, but ultimately left Baton Rouge and picked Texas Tech, and then LSU landed Sam Leavitt. Well, I asked Joey McGuire about Sorsby in that interaction. This is what he told us.
He said, he goes, Coach, I gave Coach Kiffin my word that I would come on a visit. And so I want you to know I feel really good about where we're at, but I'm going to go on that visit. And he called me whenever they were literally getting on the plane. And he said, Coach, I'll call you tonight with my answer. I promise you. And he did. Like everything he said he was going to do, as far as like, you have my word that I'm not going to make a decision here or there. I'm going to get with my family. We're going to make it. This is whenever I'm going to call you. He did it. And that was a big get, because we did not expect to go in the portal for a quarterback. When Will Hammond blew his ACL, you just, in this day and age, the amount of resources that are being poured into rosters, like Will is going to work his tail off to get back, but you never know whenever it comes to an injury like that.
That was Joey McGuire on AFR at the Bryant Awards. It was either late January or the beginning of February. It was right after the national championship, and told you point blank. Sorsby was going to Texas Tech, but he took the LSU visit because he told Lane Kiffin that he would. And it's funny because, with the benefit of hindsight, I had a lot of conversations with folks around LSU at that time who said it felt very much like Sorsby was just there on a free trip. But in Sorsby's mind, he was taking the trip because he promised Lane Kiffin he would. But very clearly LSU dodged a bullet, because there's no reason that Sorsby should be eligible after this. And while Sam Leavitt has the Lisfranc injury, and that's certainly a giant question mark, it's not an eligibility issue. It's a health issue. Sorsby may be healthy, but I don't know how in the world the NCAA is going to have him eligible if they have evidence of him betting on college football games. We will keep you posted, because that will reshape the landscape of the Big 12 and really college football nationally. All right, it's After Further Review. Trust isn't given, it's earned. Just like LSU baseball earns its success pitch by pitch, inning by inning, FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake providers earn trust every day. As LSU's championship health partner, Our Lady of the Lake cares for the defending national champions, keeping the Tigers healthy, strong, and ready to perform all season long. And that kind of care starts with a strong team. In fact, FMOL Health was recently recognized by Gallup as an exceptional workplace. It's one of the highest honors for an organization that builds engaged teams and a strengths-based culture. And that's the same team that the Tigers trust for their help. So trust the team that cares for the team you love. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together we roar. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU. Okay, we do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Elijah Haven, the number one quarterback for 2027, picked Alabama over the weekend. Finalists were Alabama and Georgia. You know the drill, 6'5", 220, the number one quarterback, number 6 overall prospect, depending on what scouting service you look at. Second quarterback commit for the Tide's 2027 class.
Texas A&M!
A&M has landed their third 5-star in offensive tackle Kennedy Brown, who's actually just on LSU's campus a week ago. 6'4", 285. He's out of Kingwood, Texas, the number 2 offensive tackle in the country. Picked the Aggies over Florida, LSU, and Tennessee, following multiple visits to all of them over the spring. It's Mike Elko's third 5-star for the class of 2027.
The Auburn Tigers.
Auburn landed 4-star running back Myson Johnson Cook over the weekend, the number 34 overall prospect in the country. 6'2", 225. He's out of the state of Illinois. He's the number 3 running back prospect in the country. Had finalists that included Miami, LSU, Kentucky, and Ole Miss.
The Florida Gators.
And Florida landed Peyton Miller, the number 1 center in the 2027 recruiting class. 6'5", 295. He's out of Texas. He's the number 68 overall prospect. Pledged the Gators on Dave Campbell's Texas football here on Monday. I picked Florida over Texas Tech, Clemson, and SMU. All right, there you have it. That is around the SEC. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows, doors, siding, shutters, and shades. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Got to see Brandon and Adrian this weekend at the NILSU Max Gala up at the LSU Indoor Facility on Saturday night. Great friends, great supporters of the Tigers, of course, as well. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. All right, let me knock out a quick break, y'all. We'll wrap up hour number 1 when we come back. We'll get to LSU baseball in 18 minutes. Swept for the 3rd consecutive weekend. I'll give you some thoughts again at the top of hour number 2. But when we come back, the biggest story of the NFL draft from the LSU perspective, outside of Mansour Delane going 6 overall, had to be Garrett Nussmeier's weight. It was one of maybe the biggest storyline of day 3 of the draft. So we'll react to it. Let's hear what some of the national pundits had to say as we continue. It's AFR.
After further review.
What an awesome time of year. I love spring. We're outdoors all the time during spring when the weather is beautiful. Great time to go get in the pool. Great time to just enjoy your outdoor spaces. And Clegg's Nursery can add so much enjoyment to your time outdoors. Get by any of the 4 locations: Seagonair Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. They have greenhouses that are bursting with blooms. Every single day, they get new truckloads of flowers and plants in. You want that gorgeous spring and summer colors? They've got them every single day over at Clegg's with their full greenhouses that are grown locally, so they're acclimated to South Louisiana, so they last and thrive in our weather. They have cherry tomato plants that are just in right now. I'm telling you, whatever it may be, hydrangeas, go buy local and shop local. Tell them Matt sent you in to Clegg's Nursery.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
With the 249th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback, LSU.
It's the injury issue. It's not what he is as a quarterback. You know, had he been healthy through the process, he would have had a different kind of year. Now it's the injury. With Shador, it wasn't about ability. It went beyond that. We had talked about that. So we're in the 5th round. Look what happened. You get an opportunity, whether you're a 4th-round pick, a 7th-round pick, team that's going to draft your signings in free agent, you got a shot. But Garrett Nussmeier, like Shador, it's not because of ability.
One of the biggest storylines of the entire draft, certainly of day 3, was Garrett Nussmeier's weight, as he ended up being the last quarterback selected in the 2026 draft. Fernando Mendoza went number 1 overall. We knew that was going to happen. And then there was the question of who would be number 2. It felt late like Ty Simpson would be the guy. He went 13 overall to the Rams, and that surprised many and certainly pissed off Sean McVay. Say what you want. We all saw it. The next was the big question, and starting day 2 with Carson Beck going to the Arizona Cardinals, 65 overall, we started to look around, okay, where would be good landing spots for Garrett Nussmeier? What are the quarterback-needy teams? And the one that felt maybe the most obvious remaining was Pittsburgh. And we talked about it on Friday, that would actually be an awesome landing spot. Probably the 2 best spots would have been the Rams and the Steelers. Veteran quarterbacks with Stafford and Rodgers, respectively, and veteran quarterbacks who probably aren't going to be quarterbacking much longer, but the rookies going in wouldn't have to play immediately. Could take time to learn. Good offensive coaches. Those are good situations. So with Ty Simpson going to the Rams, the Steelers very quickly became the next obvious choice. And when Carson Beck goes to Arizona. When the Steelers picked in round 3 and went with Drew Aller, at that point it felt like you knew what was up and the free fall was about to start for Garrett. And then we saw the Jets take Cade Klubnik in round 4. And North Dakota State quarterback Cole Payton went in round 5 to the Eagles. And then you get into round 6, and Taylon Green from Arkansas comes off the board to the Browns. And you're looking around going, that this is the product of the medical at the combine. It's the thing we talk about every year at the start of the combine. We've had doctors in this studio who have sat with us, who have been there at the combine and gone through these medicals and told us about the rigorous process and how they grade players, and they will give a recommendation to the teams, and sometimes it is a do not draft recommendation. And when you look at Garrett with the cyst on his spine, and remember back to fall camp when we learned about the patellar tendonitis, those things very clearly took Garrett Nussmeier off of a lot of teams' boards, period. Baron Morton from Texas Tech went in round 7 to New England. And I will tell you that some of the convos that I was having during the draft with people I trust, the Saints did consider taking Garrett with the 190th pick, which was the 6th round, but that was the pick that ultimately ended up being Berrien Brown. And you could say, well, I know some people have argued that it's just nepotism because his dad. Deuce Vaughn, anybody? The Dallas Cowboys selected Deuce Vaughn, so his dad, who is an assistant coach, could make the call that they picked his kid. I mean, the Astros at one point selected Alex Bregman's brother. I mean, it's not like this is an uncommon thing. It's at the end of the draft. Sometimes it's just an honor to give guys an opportunity to hear their names called. The Naval Academy receiver who got picked by Pittsburgh, which is his hometown. Very cool moment. He's not going to make the team. Come on. Sometimes the draft lends itself to those. But for Garrett Nussmeier going to Kansas City, I think this is a really good situation for him. Probably a better situation than if he had gone to the Jets or the Browns or the Cardinals, because Garrett Nussmeier is going to a situation where it's a super stable organization with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame head coach who's one of the most brilliant offensive minds of this or any era. So Garrett gets to go sit behind Patrick Mahomes and learn from Andy Reid and not be called upon to play immediately in the NFL, which is going to benefit him. Now, he may never be the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. He may end up being Chase Daniel, a guy that holds a clipboard for a decade, cashes a bunch of checks, and stays in the NFL as a really good backup. Or maybe it's a situation where Garrett will be in Kansas City for his rookie deal and then maybe have an opportunity to go compete somewhere else to be a starter at another point in his career. I don't know how it's going to go. But it's a really stable situation, especially when you look at his opportunity, because you've got Justin Fields there as the number 2 behind Patrick Mahomes. The next quarterback, if you've forgotten, is Jake Haener, who after the Saints waived him, the Chiefs signed him. So this is a really bad day for Jake Haener, because now Justin Fields is very likely going to be the backup quarterback with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he's a former first-round pick, and he's a veteran, and he's experienced, and he's going to be the guy that's the number 2, unless if Garrett goes in there and just absolutely wows everybody. But Garrett's going to have a great shot to be the number 3, maybe the third quarterback, the emergency quarterback on a game day. Or maybe he's just a practice squad guy who hangs around as the number 3. But that's a really good situation. If you ask me, do I think Jake Haener or Garrett Nussmeier is going to end up as that number 3 quarterback? I'm pretty sure Nuss is going to have a great opportunity to do that. But there's been a lot of opinions. And even Ian Rappaport, after the draft, when Nussmeier was picked, talked about the opportunity that Garrett's going to have.
Rich, you're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback situation. There is going to be an opportunity for Garrett Nussmeier to get serious reps in Kansas City. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is recovering from a torn ACL, a torn LCL. The hope is that he will be ready week 1, but certainly not going to take his full complement of reps this spring. Justin Fields going to get plenty of reps. Chris Oladuke and Jake Hain are also on that roster. Certainly seems Nussmeier will be competing to be the 3, and many teams do carry third quarterbacks now, so he does have a shot.
It's a really good opportunity for Garrett Nussmeier. And then when you just think about the financial component of it, that conversation is so dramatically different now. I mean, if you're a second, third, fourth round pick, whatever the case may be, sure, there's a higher draft capital investment, so you're more likely to make the team. But your entire rookie deal is going to be worth maybe the same as what Garrett Nussmeier made this year at LSU. So Garrett, not Garrett's family, Garrett has made 7 figures playing football. So the financial burden of, or hit of not being, of this slide isn't felt as much because of the NIL rev share component that now exists in college. So good luck to Garrett Nussmeier. No doubt, brutal. It was brutal to watch that fall. It had to be brutal for him to live through that. But he's got his opportunity, and it's with one of the best organizations in the NFL. All right, we're brought to you by Relief Windows. We'll knock out a quick break. Come back, hour number 2 after SportsCenter here. Stay with us. A busy Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows.
After further review.
We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Of course, you can always get on into any of the Rouse's locations. They still have hot-boiled crawfish at Rouse's every single day in their in-house boiling rooms. So maybe around Easter, we all do a bunch of crawfish boil. It's been a couple of weeks. Maybe now you're thinking, God, it's been a minute since I've had crawfish. Kind of jonesing a little bit. How about tonight? Get on by Rouse's. Pop into any of the Rouse's locations. Grab you some hot-boiled crawfish for the entire family. Great opportunity. Also, Derby season is here, y'all. The Kentucky Derby is this weekend, and I love when they do this. Rouse's is hosting a Woodford Reserve bottle engraving event at several of the Rouse's locations. So if you want to check them out on social media, you can see which locations it is. These make for great gifts or cool keepsake for yourself. Check it out on any of their social media if you want to learn more about it. Perfect gift for the whiskey lover in your life. Rouse's. This feels like home.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge